All right. Should be good to go. And we already have people in, one person in, so that's good. All right, let me go ahead and get this shared as well. So, two people in. Great. So, how's it going, y'all? I wanted to quickly, it looks like not first, third. I wanted to quickly talk about a few things, and it's going to be a good normal live stream. Y'all know how I do it. But I want to talk about the new Twilight Zone because I watched it and I didn't hate it. Like there was a part I was afraid it did. Okay, let's talk about this. It did everything wrong I thought it would do wrong, but it was better than I thought it would be. So I didn't think it was horrible. I thought it was worth watching. It was a legitimate, actual like new Twilight Zone, and I dug that. All right, it's free on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, just put in Twilight Zone; it'll come up. But it was style over substance for me, and that was disappointing. And what's also sad is I really love Jordan Peele. I think he's one of the most talented comedians out there right now, a fantastic director, but he felt so out of place as the host. I don't know why, but seeing him in that kind of setting, I just expected a a Jordan a Jordan Peele or a Key and Peele skit. Like that's what it felt like. So I yeah, it felt like a lot of flash. The ideas weren't that original. It didn't blow my mind, which that's like Twilight Zone is supposed to do. So it's slightly better than I expected, but it did everything wrong I thought it was going to do wrong. It looked super stylized. It looked like it was trying really, really hard to look and feel like Twilight Zone, and it felt like Twilight Zone, but the writing was just not up to par. I mean, it's so hard to live up to what Twilight Zone was because Twilight Zone is one of the greatest shows of all time, and it had some of the best sci-fi writers of all time behind those episodes. So how could you possibly live up to it? I think it's worth watching. So yes, the person who just asked that, it is worth watching because the potential is there for it to get a lot better. If they recreated the feel of Twilight Zone well enough for me to say, okay, I'm ready. Like now you need to step everything up, step your game up because that was a decent first entry, but that's it. So I didn't hate it. It's worth watching. It's free on YouTube. Check it out after the stream if you want to. My biggest thing though is having Jordan Peele host felt weird. That was weird, and the writing was and the concept behind it was not original. Didn't blow my mind, and it didn't feel like it. That the biggest surprise to me is it didn't feel like a Black Mirror ripoff. That's my biggest fear. I was like, it's just going to be It's Black Mirror ripped off Twilight Zone, and the new Twilight Zone is going to rip off Black Mirror. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was being inspired by Twilight Zone, but it just didn't do it well enough. So I'm hoping that we'll get some more crazy, awesome, stuff in the future from it. But I just wasn't wowed that much, unfortunately. I do think it's worth watching though, and I'm excited to see. I'm talking about Twilight Zone, Gabriel Bryn, the new one. It came back, and it's neat. It was neat. Anyway, so this is the live stream where I wanted to kind of talk about sci-fi a little bit if people are interested, because I do plan on doing more sci-fi in the future, but it's no guarantee. Sound. Am I not having any sound come through? Hey, Nablus is here. How's it going, bud? I know sound's coming through. Otherwise, people wouldn't know I'm talking about Twilight Zone. So that's. Have you thought about the Honor Harrington series review? I'm not sure what you're talking about there because there's so many things brought up to me to review that I can't keep any of them straight. And in the future, I do plan on doing more sci-fi talk. I want to actually do. I want to do more talking about classic sci-fi because I know they're not my best viewed videos, but I really want to. So I want to talk about some of my favorite classic Twilight Zone episodes from back in the day because I want to specifically recommend them for a few people to go back and watch because I think they are, for sci-fi fans, for just television fans, things like that, must-sees. And a few more books that I want to go back and talk about as well. And hopefully I can encompass some new sci-fi fans as well and get some fantasy fans checking out sci-fi because the genres have been so intertwined. Someone added me here. Hold up. At Neil Green, by the way, both thank you and curse you for getting me into Wheel of Time series. It's taken over my life, unfortunately. It makes me so happy how many comments I get of people saying they started Wheel of Time because of me, or they're just getting into it and they love it. And it warms my heart. I also get people who saying they started and they didn't like it, and that's fine. Like, not everything's for everybody. Which classic sci-fi books are your favorites? Actually, my favorite genre, even more than fantasy. You and I both. I actually like, in terms of passion, I think I have slight more passion for sci-fi. But Stranger in a Strange Land is one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love it. Fahrenheit 451 is another one that's maybe more just dystopian than sci-fi, but I think it qualifies for both. I, Robot, of course, the Foundation trilogy. I also like some modern sci-fi. It's a lot of sci-fi fans talk down about modern sci-fi, and in some cases they should, because it's lost a lot of its charm. Not its charm. It's lost a lot of what classic sci-fi really was, because classic sci-fi at its core back in the day was an exploration of ideas first and foremost. What ifs? What if this happened? What would really be the case? And those were always the best for me. And modern sci-fi does not lean on that as much. So I actually have a review for I Am Legend Up. So if you want to check that out, go right ahead. It's become much more character-based, much more world-based, like fantasy. It's becoming more sci-fantasy more and more frequently, which isn't inherently bad, though. It just means it's not classic sci-fi. I consider them two very different genres. And I'd like to see a resurgence of real classic sci-fi. I think the closest thing we've gotten recently is The Martian, which was hardcore science fiction. Yeah, and Nablus, you're absolutely right. It's the Star Wars influence. Star Wars came in, and I do not consider Star Wars sci-fi. Where's the science in Star Wars? There's spaceships. There's a Death Star. That's not science. Those are shoot bang pow explosion devices. There's no science there. So that's my opinion on that. I know some people vehemently disagree, but especially because they introduce flat out magic in the Force. To me, it's space fantasy or sci fantasy, as some people say. I don't know. And I'm not trying to say it's bad, though. You hear me say that, and people are like, oh, he's saying it's bad. I by no means am saying that modern sci-fi is bad. I'm just saying it's different. And I love modern sci-fi as well, the stuff that's more sci-fantasy. I just got done reading, what was it called? Oh, yeah, not recently, but recently I did a while ago read Bobverse, and that's total modern sci-fantasy. So no, that's more just modern sci-fi, but it's great. But it's not really what ifs quite as much. But moving on from my little spiel there, Star Wars is space opera, space fantasy. You're right, and I wish you would change the genre listing on Google. If any of you guys have Google contacts, just get rid of the sci-fi label that's on it, because it's not. Come to Europe. I've been to Europe. Your continent is wonderful, but if you want me to specifically visit you, you might need to be more specific. How's it going, Truth Serum? Drag Reborn, good to see you in here as well. Nablus is contributing like crazy. I appreciate it, my guy. Mods, if this has not been put out in the Discord yet, please do send out a notification for notifications wanted. I'd appreciate it. Steampunk. So I think steampunk is a very interesting offshoot of a certain genre. A lot of people think steampunk is an offshoot of sci-fi. I disagree. To me, steampunk seems much more of an offshoot of dystopian than sci-fi, and dystopian itself has close ties to sci-fi. But it's interesting to see what people do with it, and I really enjoy the, how do I put this properly, aesthetics of steampunk. But I've yet to see something deliver what I think steampunk's full potential is, because I think it is a neat coding, and you can certainly tell a neat story with it. But I've yet to see anything that makes me think like this is the definitive steampunk story, as there often is with certain really creative skins that are commonly used. For example, if I say space opera, you think Star Wars, period. If I say, sci-fi horror, most of you will think Alien. So I want to see something that when I say steampunk, you think, but there hasn't really been anything like that in my opinion yet. I don't know. I've never heard of Redwall. I heard Mortal Engines was not as bad as a lot of people were reviewing it to be. And in response to the question just asked, our Childhood's End is the first book I reviewed on this channel. and it's still to this day one of my favorite books of all time and one of my favorite sci-fi books. It's one of the first books that after I finished it, I was like, oh, that was good. And then like 2 hours later, I was like, oh my God. Like it just kept hitting me all the things that were implied and stuff. So it's something that, how do I put this properly? So Childhood's End, one of those books that I think it benefits from not only a reread, but a rethinking and recontextualizing. So that's all I'll say about that. Don't forget the original classic sci-fi like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. See, I have not read those yet, and I need to. I'm more versed than most people in classic sci-fi, but not as much as some. And I've also noticed Hollywood has an obsession with trying to redo what's already been done perfectly in sci-fi. So like Alien, for example, they're doing Alien movies again and again and again. And sometimes they do it well. Like there's the recent Blade Runner was very nice. That was fine. And they're trying to redo Twilight Zone, as we previously covered, but they seem to be obsessed. Like The Day the Earth Stood Still. Hasn't been 3 of those now. I, Robot, the book was fine. Don't make it into a movie. And they turn it into a movie. And it's like, a lot of these things you should not touch. And so a Dune adaptation I'm open to, because I didn't love it as much as many others, but certain sci-fi books I think are so perfect in their book form. I don't think they should be brought into the new medium. For example, Stranger in a Strange Land, I don't think could be, I don't think Stranger in a Strange Land could come to a movie form and be as good as, what it really should be in terms of what it was in the book form. I'm messing up, so I'm trying to read what was just censored automatically. Have you read any books by Philip K. Dick outside of Do Androids Dream? No, but I want to. He's also on my list. I actually have read many sci-fi books I've never reviewed on my channel because, guys, those reviews just do not get views at all, and it makes me sad. Ryan, how's it going, Ryan? Hey, can't join you this time. Got essay deadlines tomorrow morning. Hope you are having a nice time. Got my DM message. I did, and I'm sorry I haven't responded, as I've covered with my mods. Pips, get off. You're not allowed on top of the PC, man. I keep a laser pointer just to keep him distracted when he starts touching stuff he shouldn't. And now he's off. Laser pointers are a must when it comes to cats. I forget what I was talking about. Yeah, so there's a fantasy bias on my channel, which is fine. Okay, so the Starship Troopers movie, a lot of people claim is garbage. The Starship Troopers movie is genius that is rarely seen in cinema. And it is amazing that this movie was over. Like, I don't like saying this because it makes you sound like super pretentious, but it seems like the original Starship Troopers movie was over critics' heads because it knows what it is. People were saying like, hey, this is obviously fascist propaganda. Yeah, that's the joke. The whole movie's a tongue-in-cheek joke. How do you not get that? It's so obvious. Like, these characters by the end are in love with the people they shouldn't be in love with. That's set up early on. They're so happy about horrific warfare and death. And it's all this tongue-in-cheek thing that's like, fascism's horrible. This is the end result. The initial assault on Earth from the aliens is a lie. The government's lying to everybody. It was clearly like not from the aliens. They're just going to this poor innocent bug world and massacring everybody for a lie. It's genius. And I don't think the actors knew what they were in on either, which is kind of funny. I don't think Denise Richards was told like, oh no, in this movie, you're a Nazi, essentially. It's brilliant. And if you watch it with that lens, you realize like, hot damn, they did a really good job. So I actually really, really enjoy that movie. And it's also, it kind of goes against what I was saying because it's an adaptation of a classic sci-fi book, but done completely anti the book. Like the book is not like it at all. I really enjoy that though. That's the humor in it as well was brilliant. Why is everyone who swears get immediately censored by this Nightbot? I need to get rid of Nightbot and just trust my mods altogether because my mods are amazing people. And someone brought up Cyberpunk 2077. I definitely want to play that game. That's a game coming out. People haven't seen it, but I'm focusing a lot on VR right now because the Rift S looks fascinating to me, and I'm trying to see if I can save enough money to snatch one. But I don't know if I'll invest in a $60 game or I want to just, okay, let's go VR and whatever, because I have a hard time like bouncing back and forth between the two. Favorite Star Trek series? Okay, I know my dad's watching, but I think Captain Kirk is a joke. I think the original I think the original crew is better, but Captain Kirk's a joke and Picard's a better captain. That's my opinion on that, and I assume I will be bombarded with hatred by a lot. And I also think Janeway is underrated. Captain Janeway is great. So let's see. Deep Space Nine was really, really good. Dad coming in with Never. Everyone say congrats to my dad. He's out in LA right now. He's living it up out there. I'm happy for him. So that's cool. Let's see. Why do people mean when they say Dune is sci-fi written as a fantasy novel? I just thought Dune was boring and poorly done, but I'm very much so in the minority. I'm not gonna say that's factual. I'm just gonna say it's it's what it is. Would you say Dune is sci-fi? I would consider it. Enterprise and Voyager were legit. Enterprise and Voyager were like the only Star Trek series I really don't like so far is what's the new one, whatever they're calling it. I'm blanking on the name, but I've watched it several times and it's just not Star Trek to me. I actually thought the shorts they put out were the best they've done yet. Those little shorts were actually really nice, mainly because they felt like real sci-fi to me. Discovery, thank you. But Discovery so far has just been DS9 sucked from my dad. We're allowed to have our opinions. I've only read iRobot. Well, you've done good because most people haven't read that, and it's one of the best sci-fi stories I think out there. Okay, new Battlestar Galactica though is better than any Star Trek series. I'm going to put that out there. I loved the new Battlestar Galactica, and it's not new anymore, but the most recent Battlestar Galactica, and thought it was some of the best sci-fi television's ever seen. And deserves to have more love thrown at it. I'm kind of mad at The Office for turning Battlestar Galactica in this meme because that show was wonderful. Some of the best character work there's ever been in something that still sticks to real sci-fi, although it kind of goes into spiritual god stuff, but really wonderful. Great characters, great plot. If you can get me to hate a character like they made me hate Gaius Baltar, you're doing good. Deserved more love. I think it's on Netflix. You do have to push through the first few episodes, and then it gets really, really going. New Galactica was great, but not as good as original Star Trek. Well, original Star Trek wasn't as good as The Next Generation, Dad. So, you're saying we're in disagreement here. What I want to see, though, let me get my piece out here on this. I don't want to see classic sci-fi in its most original pure form make a resurgence because it won't fit into modern Hollywood. People need explosions. People need crazy, crazy stuff going on, and it just won't live. We'll see too many movies bomb. For example, recently, Blade Runner 2049 was one of the best movies of the last 5-6 years, easily, yet it bombed at the box office. So what I want to see, though, is sci-fi to continue to being, fantastical in a lot of the ways that it's developed into being, but just change it so that the core plot revolves more around the exploration of ideas rather than character drama, which it seems to more and more go into character drama. So that's all I'm asking. Don't go back to these dry stories. Like Foundation series is great, but it's really dry and it wouldn't survive now. And the fact that it's being adapted, I think they're going to change a whole lot. So I don't know. That's my response on that. Mods, you guys are on top of stuff right now. I appreciate it. I've never read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is based off a book, right? I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the book. I believe that's the case. Thoughts on Doctor Who? I watched all of David Tennant. I didn't love it. I liked it. And then when David Tennant passed on the Doctor, I kind of just decided, like, not for me anymore. I never really liked Matt Smith. I gave him a little bit of a try, and it was just that's over. Let's see. Is Daniel Green a Cylon? Is Green Daniel Cylon? One of the Daniels is for sure. Let's see. Let's scroll here a little bit. So Westworld's brought up. That's great sci-fi as well. That's being done phenomenally. But I don't think season 1 was topped with season 2. Although I haven't finished season 2 yet, so I don't think I can say that with absolute certainty. But season 1 was near perfect television, so I don't know if they'll be able to. Do you think the way Orson Scott Card develops his characters and crafts them? I haven't read enough Orson Scott Card to fully give an opinion on that. If you want something like Wheel of Time and Sci-Fi, check out the Culture series. I've never even heard of that, so I'll have to look into it. I saw a comment earlier I wanted to respond to, but now I can't find it again, which really sucks. But yeah, so far, takeaways from this: watch Battlestar Galactica, watch Starship Troopers, and Next Generation's better than the original series. Sorry, I'm getting messages from people. Let's see. What do you think of Perfect Dark Zero? Never heard of that. I've also heard there are animes that are actually pretty good sci-fi, and maybe I need to check those out. I've seen Ghost in the Shell, and I think that, yeah, that's sci-fi. So I think that's definitely worth mentioning as well, because it doesn't get brought up in the conversation when it should. So the original animated Ghost in the Shell was really, really nice. My issue with Westworld is that it's using the same time jumping theme to create suspense over and over. Like, that's what makes it good for. Yeah, I can see that gimmick getting old. I know what you're talking about, but I don't want to get into that too much because spoilers. Let's see. What's your top sci-fi book to read? That's so hard. In terms of just like flat out, it's fun. It's not the best sci-fi ever, but it's just so much fun. Bobverse to me is just so bingeable. So I would say 100% that one. Mods, I think you're going to know who I'm talking about when I say this. Just go ahead and ban them. That's fine. Let's see. Yeah, Jurassic Park is amazing sci-fi, which people often forget that that's sci-fi. But yeah, just because there's dinosaurs does not mean it's not. Let's see. Would you consider Lovecraft sci-fi? No, that's cosmic horror. And for me, there's not enough. Well, oh God, you're getting into so much of the gray area there. I think I wouldn't blame anyone, but I would say it's so first and foremost cosmic horror, and there's not much of a why or an exploration of anything outside of just this. Like, he just puts this thing, and then it's terrifying. And that's actually, I think, my biggest criticism of Lovecraft was, well, the genre he's exploring does prohibit a whole lot of examination beyond just surface level statements. It sometimes felt too surface, even for cosmic horror, because one of the issues with cosmic horror is the deeper you get into an idea like Cthulhu, the more it kind of falls apart, because, duh. But him often is just like, oh, this guy looked in a box and he went insane, and I'm like, those are the weakest Lovecraft stories. I am going to start The Expanse. I have not watched much TV at all recently, but The Expanse is probably the first show I'm going to pick up once I do jump into it. Let's see. Do you have any interest? Yeah. So, yeah, cosmic horror is hard to write. I'm not trying to say I could do better. That's in terms of dumb comments I get, people telling me like, well, if you criticizing this book, why don't you do one better? And I'm like, so you can't give an opinion on anything then? Like, if you're saying you can't criticize something without having done it better first, that's such insanity. And these people are like clearly saying that's the case. Like, I got that a lot on my review of Words, Places, Things, Sort of Truth, was people being like, well, if you think it's so bad, why don't you just write one better? And I'm like, well, one, I am writing one that probably will. No, that's too egotistical. I'm not saying that. But I am writing something. And are you saying you never criticize anything? Like, you can't criticize a book unless you've directed. You can't criticize a movie unless you've directed, acted, starred. Like, no, it's not how reviewing works. You just need an understanding of the process and standards. Firefly, I think, is one of the most overhyped shows of all time, and you all can fight me about that, because, well, Firefly is good. Don't get me wrong, it is good. People say it's like an A+, and it's like a B-. I'm not saying it's bad, but people saying that Firefly is one of the greatest things of all time, I strongly disagree. If SpaceX... let's see, if I just people saying unsubscribing because I didn't like I did like Firefly. I just don't know why people think it's that great. Let's see. let's see. Look at look at how they massacred my boy. Um, yeah. Okay. So I will say that Firefly's greatest appeal is the charisma of the main people, without a doubt. There's very charismatic acting going on, and the aesthetics of the show are very pleasing. But I just like I didn't the plot and everything. It just like I was like, what are we doing? Like this feels so meandering. I don't know. I felt I wanted more of a direction for the show I was enjoying, and I was enjoying it. And it had the guy from Chuck, who I really like. I have not ever read 4400. Uh, I have read Jurassic Park, but it's so long ago. That was ages and ages ago. Let's see what's going on here. So, how's your book coming along? So, there's going to be a book update video coming out tomorrow. The patrons got something today, and I'm going to put up something else again tonight. Sorry, they got something yesterday, and I'm going to put something again tonight. So John Carter of Mars is not, I wouldn't call it sci-fi or fantasy. I would call it pulp and just leave it at that, because I don't want that entering conversations for sci-fi and fantasy. John Carter is pulp. It's brilliant. It's wonderful. It's great pulp. It's pulp. And I didn't think the movie was as bad as people said. It wasn't great. It was fine. Let's see. Is it my birthday? I can't answer that question for you. Let's see. World building not as good with sci-fi compared to fantasy novels. Yeah. Well, God, if I could take one feature from modern sci-fi and apply it to classics to make the classics better, it's the world building. Because very often in classic sci-fi, the world building would just be like, there is this. Okay, now we're going to have the story take place. And they don't go into really developing it out as much. Ender's Game, I don't enjoy as much as a lot of people seem to. But that's just a personal opinion. Let's see. Yeah, I've heard Expanse does it very, very well, and I want to start the Expanse soon. But let's go ahead and shift away from sci-fi here, because I know not everyone here is the biggest sci-fi fan. I will let you all know I just recorded a Dresden Files review. I uploaded it literally like 20 minutes before starting here. So the new Dresden Files review will be out not tomorrow, because I already have a video scheduled for tomorrow, but Thursday. Yeah, it's Tuesday. So Thursday. So it's probably my harshest review of Dresden Files yet, because there's been some issues with that. Let's see. Unpopular opinion. Besides Stranger in a Strange Land, generally sci-fi characters are so hollow and boring to follow. That's just the problem with the classic sci-fi genres. That's not where the focus is. So, oh man, I'm seeing so much support for Dresden, which makes me nervous about the video I'm about to put out. Okay, moving on. Yeah, it's not supposed to be character driven, which I think we've kind of covered that earlier, but classic sci-fi is ideas driven. So I think while the current state of the genre needs to go back to its roots a little bit and be more ideas driven, I like the fact that characters and worlds are more fleshed out and believable, but that's just me. Dresden is good, but pulp. Yeah. And that's largely what my criticisms you'll see Thursday are focusing on. But that's just me. So I know that every time I bring this up, I get people telling me, no, don't ever. And some people saying like, yes, do this, and this. There will be a couple animation related or related reviews coming soon. I've kind of rewatched some of the original Avatar: The Last Airbender, and more things along those will be coming. What do I think about 2001: A Space Odyssey? I usually list it as my favorite movie of all time. Occasionally it gets bumped down depending on my mood, but I think it is Stanley Kubrick's best work, and I think Stanley Kubrick is the best director. If you have not watched 2001: Space Odyssey, please do. And I saw a very out of context clip from a show where two people were talking about 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it was some of the most just mindless, like, why was this written thing? Like, they were saying like, oh, it's so boring, and then the person responds, well, at least it's long. And I was like, that's not how boredom works. If you want it to be short, it was so weird. I don't know why that just came into my head, but it was strange. Asimov or Clark? Asimov, just because my dad has a cool story with him, but they're two giants. It's hard to compare those two. Is Wizard of Oz good fantasy? Yeah, I would say Wizard of Oz is good fantasy. It's more or less for its influence and what it is. And also, it is held up pretty well for its time. I don't know why they keep trying to add entries into it. Stop that. Once again, Hollywood, if you captured lightning in a bottle, guess what's hard to do with lightning in a bottle? I don't understand why there's this obsession with remaking really amazingly well done things, especially casting James Franco in the sequel. Stop it. I'm excited to see Mistborn go into the space age. That was a really cool announcement from Brandon, and I hope that it actually works out that way. I'm not going to hold him to it. Like, he's an author, he can do what he wants. But the fact that he's going to go steampunk then space age, or I think he said steampunk. I don't remember, but that's really, really cool. James Franco is a horrible actor. Controversial opinion. Not really. Most people agree he's not that great. How many books do you read a week? My reading has slowed to a crawl because work has picked up. House hunting's taking up time. My social life's getting a little bit more demanding recently. So I'm not reading as much as I used to. I'm averaging about a book a week, which I was doing a 2 a week not too long ago. So that's cut in half. So yeah, I'm sorry for the less reviews recently, guys. I hope you're not mad, but yeah, I'm going to be less and less reviews. Also recently there was a bunch of back catalog videos I was putting out while my brother was visiting, which was a ton of fun. Love seeing him. So this is actually like my first interaction with you aside from fantasy news in a while. It feels good, because I've been not paying attention because I've had to just release scheduled videos. Which, it's weird that I can put out things that to you are new and to me are 2-3 weeks old. But no, not anymore. Let's see. I like James Franco. He's a big nerd, and I like that. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying I don't enjoy his acting. Actually, he's good in comedy roles. Can we acknowledge the fact that Jonah Hill successfully went from being like stoner comedy, never being taken seriously and super bad, to in Martin Scorsese films, and apparently now going to start directing? That's impressive. Good on him. That's interesting. Let's see. Sorry, I saw Cosmere, so I have to read it. Is Skyward part of the Cosmere? I don't believe so. I didn't double check, so I need to get into that, but I don't think so. Does anyone know for sure? Is Skyward Cosmere? I'm going to go ahead and say no. It's way too out of place to be Cosmere in my mind. Controversial opinion, Cosmere-wise. I hope Brandon never actually makes these books crossover, outside of just the few little things he's already done, because it's like the Stephen King universe, but for fantasy. If we started seeing these direct, heavy crossovers frequently, I think it would actually detract rather than add. And I don't want to see that. I like the Stephen King approach where they are connected and you're going to see little hints, but that's about it. And in fact, the biggest crossover Stephen King has done in his universe would happen in 11/22/63. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but he has a very direct crossover where it's like, oh, these are characters from one book talking with another, and it felt super out of place and wrong. So I'm more, let's let these things be subtle, let's let them be background, but don't really intertwine them. They are making a new edition of The Stand, and that's one of my most looking forward to adaptations out there right now. Of The Flood, I'm so excited because that story, if it's told right, could be something huge, which I'm excited for. Let's see. Thoughts on Cosmere movie, right? Will it happen? Can DMG do it? Oh, I don't know. That's so far down the road. I don't even want to make predictions because it's so early on. They could announce some weird director. They could announce no budget. Like I'll say this, Cosmere could absolutely be done, but I don't know anything about the situation it's currently in to state one way or the other. Let's see. MOON spells The Stand. Good reference. I like that, Nolan. Good job. If Brandon has nothing to do sometime, he should write a fanfic short story where all the crossovers happen. I think Brandon always has something to do because he puts almost every other author out there to shame with his output. It is utterly crazy. Best anime ever made. I would disagree. By the way, Daniel Green, they finally approved my press access for JordanCon. Awesome. So I'll be more likely to be there now. So expect random ridiculous questions during your panel. Great. I'm super excited to see you there. And if you're going to be in JordanCon, let me know in the chat right now. I can't wait. I'm super excited. Honestly, I hope it doesn't. Okay, rewinding real quick. Someone said Perfect Blue was best anime ever. I thought Studio Ghibli, like, undisputedly made the best anime stuff ever. Am I wrong? I thought that was just like universally accepted, but I'm seeing people back this guy up. Like, isn't Studio Ghibli king, undisputed? No one touches it. Because even when I was in my I don't like Studio Ghibli, I loved their stuff. I've started Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood thanks to a recommendation from Elliot Brooks, and it's really, really good. Have you ever considered writing a fantasy book? You are going to like the video tomorrow, my friend. Perfect Blue is more mature. I love Ghibli so much. Fight me. Well, I'm agreeing with you. Let's not. Randall Thorsby, played by Michael Cera. I've already talked about this. Michael Cera should be Lews Theron Telamon. Duh. Just Lews Theron's voice in his head, like, hey man, how's it going? Let's see. Yes, I got noticed. You got noticed twice, my dude. Studio Madhouse is king. I've never even heard of them. Try Ghost in the Shell, Cyberpunk. I talked about earlier. I've watched Ghost in the Shell, and I thought it was remarkably good, especially visually striking. And I get why people had more of an issue with the live action one. I've seen both. I thought the live action one was okay. It was okay, but yeah, compared to the anime is way, way better. Hello, back at you, Lord Ragna. I appreciate you. Are we allowed to talk about books outside of fantasy and sci-fi? Well, we're just talking about The Stand. So I'd say, yeah, I consider Stephen King fantasy. But yes, I would say any books are welcome. Hi from Brazil. Hi from America. Hi from Columbus, Ohio. Did we talk about Akira? Watch Black Clover. Are you excited to experience Wheel of Time with Murphy? Yeah. If you guys don't know, a fellow booktuber, Murphy Napier, is doing. She is starting. She has no pressure. She's slowly starting Wheel of Time. Very excited to see how she enjoys the series. Her Eye of the World review is up now, and she gave a very positive review. If you want to go check it out, I recommend checking it out. Are you going to see Pet Sematary? I am this weekend. A friend and I are going to go see it. I'm very excited. I actually recently watched the original movie, and it was so that, like, I don't know what's the word for it, but just like that era of horror movie where they had they had a budget. They had a budget, but it was just that, I think you guys know what I mean. Like, old 80s era horror movies are just, oh, they're nice. Hi from Greece. Dude, oh, that's awesome. I want to scuba dive in the Greek islands so much. Is it just me, or is Lord of Chaos slow to read? No spoilers, no talking about that. Lord of Chaos pays off at the end. That's all I'm going to say in an amazing way. Let's see. If I'm reviewing another Neil Gaiman book, of course. Neil Gaiman will be coming very, very soon in the future. I loved his American Gods. Yeah, that's Neil Gaiman stuff. And have you seen the person who tried to gatekeep Neil Gaiman on Twitter? He was he made some comment about fantasy, and then Neil Gaiman responded, and the guy responded you don't know about fantasy. And Neil Gaiman was like, dude, it's me. I thought that was great. I'm remembering that horribly, but it was a really funny meme. For sci-fi, I loved Ender's Game. See, I didn't love Ender's Game as much as a lot of people. Can you please finish Aragon? I reviewed the first book for y'all, and I gave my opinions on why I'm not going to finish it. Let's see. Yo, real talk though. I love rom-com anime and cute little slice of fantasy life, and it's great. I've never heard of anything that you just said at all. Someone just mentioned narrators for audiobooks. There's an art to being a good narrator. Obviously, it's a very difficult craft. It's hard to do, a lot harder than people think. I think Kate Redding and Michael Kramer are probably my two favorites, but for the edition of Pet Sematary, you can get on Audible right now. Michael C. Hall narrates it. And there's one person who has a voice who is just magnificent for being narrating a Stephen King book. Michael C. Hall is your guy. Wonderful. Gotta don't know. Hold up. Gotta head to dinner so I can record a video. Keep up the great work, man. Thank you so much, Nablus. I appreciate that. You're a wonderful creator. And if you guys haven't subscribed to him, what are you doing? He's one of the best Wheel of Time. He is the best Wheel of Time YouTuber out there, because it's kind of just me and him ruling Wheel of Time YouTube right now. Can other people get involved? Let's get some competition going. I want more Wheel of Time YouTubers. The more the merrier. And no, that's not me dissing podcast people. I don't just consider them YouTubers, because they're podcasters first and foremost. So that's not me throwing shade by saying they're not Wheel of Timers. You know what I mean? Let's see. I'm subscribed to Nablus. Good. I appreciate you. Quantum Magician, also good name. Let's see. Also, Ryan Ratchford. I don't know if you're still here or not, but I need to send you a message on Discord. Remind me to do that, because I meant to talk to you about something. Let's see. Have you read Red Rising? Not yet. Sup, Daniel? Sup, Gonzalo Destito? I did my best. That's all I'll say. And I bet a lot of you are excited to hear that I have started Edge Dancer by Brandon Sanderson. Does Jay Kennedy take a bad picture? No, he does not. That is something we've learned. Oh man, we're up to 127. Not bad. Let's see. It'd be nice if you talked about the Silmarillion. I've read it. I'll never read it again. I'm glad I read it. I'll recommend it to any Tolkien heads, any hardcore fantasy fans, but that is not an enjoyable read. Oof, as the kids say. What are your views on dystopian novels? Right, if they're done right. I mean, I don't really discriminate based on genre, because as I've said before, I don't believe genre is this hard line thing that people talk about. Genre is more like a loose scaffolding for you to build your story on. And there's no scaffolding that I hate by default. So I think people should be more loose with their genre. They should try more. They should be just make it a brief scaffolding and then just expand which way you want to go. How did you feel about Captain Marvel? I thought it was the most middle of the road Marvel movie yet. And that's not a harsh criticism, because usually Marvel's really good, but Captain Marvel did nothing to wow me. I thought it was okay. It was good. But the arguments around it, I've made my opinions on that very, very clear. Yeah, people who get super upset about it, I just don't understand. It's a gigantic corporate product. Stop getting your emotions involved in a gigantic corporate product. Hidden Figures should have been talked about the same way that whatever. Favorite Marvel movie? Oh, God, does it have to be by default Endgame? It's either Iron Man 1, Thor Ragnarok, or not Endgame, sorry, Infinity War. Yeah, one of those three. Let's see. Have you no, I've not seen Attila Battle Angel, though I've heard good things. Loved Hidden Figures, not enough people have seen it. Yeah, it's a wonderful movie, and it has that female R&B singer in it who's wonderful. What's her name? Her music is fantastic. Her Michael Jackson influence is something that more people need to have, not just the music. Janelle Monáe, thank you. She is absolutely goals. She is astounding. If you guys have not checked out Janelle Monáe's music, do, because she's wonderful. Kip is a wonderful character. Okay. So here's my thing. I've gone so many ups and downs, backs and forths with Lightbringer. Let me get my definitive feelings on Lightbringer. Lightbringer is a great fantasy series that has flaws. And Brent Weeks has done some controversial things with it, and he's done. Hey, Ipa, how's it going? It's good to see you in here, man. He's made some choices as an author with it that I think were deliberate to kind of make it harder for everyone to enjoy. Like, the main characters are not likable people. They are rather unlikable people. And I don't think he thinks they're good people like other authors who wrote rather unlikable characters. He knows they're egotistical, they're rough, they're bad in a lot of ways. Kip's a brat in a lot of times, or, it's interesting to see. And I respect what Brent Weeks is doing a lot. I think he, out of all the authors out there, has one of the greatest potential to write something truly that is a masterpiece one day. So I'm looking forward to that. Do I think Lightbringer is that right now? No, but it's not bad. Very good entry. Definitely a step up from Night Angel. And up there to be in contention with a lot of his peers in talks for best currently being written fantasy series. Do I like Monty Python? What kind of question is that? Who doesn't like Monty Python? Yeah, I like Monty Python. I also breathe air and drink water. If you don't like Monty Python, you and me are on the sides in this. If you don't like Monty Python, I don't think you should be allowed to have opinions. That's just my take on that. That's me. I love to hate Andros. Exactly. Brent Weeks has crafted one of the best villains the fantasy genre is currently seeing in Andros Guile. Let's see. And now for something completely different. I feel like a lot of these live streams are just me. And now for something completely different, left and right. I do have a friend coming over at 8, so I might need to wrap this up before too long. Let's see. I heard Elliot's review and I no longer wanted to read it because the points she made and things didn't like. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There are choices that Brent Weeks made an author for Lightbringer that are rather unpleasant. And while I think Elliot was right in a lot of the things she said, and the framing of it was maybe not the best, there's a difficulty as a reviewer of me going, okay, did the author do this intentionally and frame it this way or not? And, I have to make a call there. And I don't think Brent Weeks intentionally framed those things to be the way Elliot was talking about, though I think she's legitimately just made a different call than I did. And I don't think she's wrong. I don't think I'm right. I just think there were choices Brent Weeks made that not everyone's going to enjoy. And that's, I get why some people are not going to like it. And I didn't necessarily like those parts of the book either. I still respect it because I'd rather see an author take a risk, write something that could offend some people, could hurt some feelings, than someone who's too afraid to put their foot out of line. And Brent Weeks has displayed again and again, he's not afraid to put his foot out of line. Good as an author to do that. That's one of my reasons I like Stephen King. You can say a lot about King's writing in terms of negatives, but Stephen King is willing to push boundaries. Ending of It, for an example. Holy Jesus, dude. I think he took it too far there. I'm not going to lie. I read that and I was like, this book would have been better if this was not in it. I respected it, but I wish he didn't do it. Oh my God. Who do you think of the most underrated villain you've ever read? Most underrated villain. Marvel has really stepped up their villain game, which is great to see and helps them overall. And I only have their villains sticking out in my head. But when it comes to books and fantasy, I think a lot more people need to talk about what's his name? Oh my God. Give me a second here. Trying to remember and contextualize thoughts. Okay. I can't think of a name. Damn it, that's going to drive me nuts. I literally had it and it slipped away. Okay, underrated villains. I'm going to go for movies because that's easier, and maybe that makes me a bad person. But in terms of underrated villains, I love Hal 9000. I think he's one of the greatest villains of all time. And while the older heads in the audience are definitely going to say, well, duh, you got to understand people my age very, very rarely even know who Hal 9000 is. So absolutely check him out. I could list Wheel of Time villains that I think are underrated, but I feel like people here are probably tired of me talking about that. But I think the conflict. Let me rephrase the conversation a little bit. When I think of great villains, I try to think of conflicts because there's always a villain in any individual conflict. Like one of Marvel's best villains is Iron Man because in Civil War he was the villain, and they did a wonderful job making him that. So when I think of a villain, I first try to think of the conflicts they caused. And so that's why people like Killmonger stand out Thanos, because the conflicts they caused had such high stakes and you knew every side had valid points. So flipping that on its head, someone who Drist's rival in Forgotten Realms, the assassin, I can't remember his name, he is a good villain, but I don't think he is a great villain because his conflicts are always so one note. So I'm trying to think right now who's a villain who's caused amazing conflicts. Pips, what did you just do? Oh, he opened my closet door. Interesting. I think Sci-Fi has had better villains than people think. Like the alien or the xenomorph from Alien, it doesn't come up in villain conversations much, and I think it should, because yes, it is just this animal. It has this amazing reflection for our fear. It has this innate, how am I trying to say this? Tone, not tone. There's an innate fear and drastic. What's the word I'm looking for? It's essentially the antithesis of who we are. We are rational. We are trying to find logic and order and strategize to take out this xenomorph. But that's not going to work because this thing is just a killing machine. I think that's a lot of the different problems that the new xenomorph related movies are having, is that they're trying to put this like deeper ideology behind what a xenomorph is. And in reality, the xenomorph is just, what made it terrifying is you don't know. The more you contextualize a xenomorph, the less scary, the less interesting. Same thing with Predator. And to completely flip that idea, that works for heroes and stuff like that too. The more we know about Han Solo, the less he is that mischievous rogue who has this mysterious past. It hurts the character. So it can be better for villains and heroes to know less. So a lot of the underrated villains to me are ones that you don't know a lot about because they serve a purpose to generate a conflict, and that should be the focus. So that took me a long time to flip that around and answer it, but there's my answer. I don't think Solo was terrible. I thought it was a decent sci-fi heist film. Certainly wasn't a Star Wars film, though. Though I'm very disillusioned with Star Wars now, and not wholly against it. I don't agree with you saying monsters aren't villains, because at its core, a villain's job is to cause conflict for a protagonist, and monsters can certainly do that. And then you get this gray area of like, when does a monster become the villain? Is the thing a villain or a monster? Is it a villain or a monster? It becomes grayer and grayer. And then, you can push that as far. Is Voldemort a villain or a monster? He's definitely somewhere in between. Let's see. I met Brendan Sanderson the other day and got myself a signed copy of Oathbringer. Holy crap. That's amazing. But that's actually tying it back to my own. Pips, what are you doing? I got to make sure I didn't walk on the computer. That would be a bad thing. Hold up. I know what you guys actually want to see. Oh, he's swatting the laser pointer. There we go. There's your daily dose of Pips. What was I about to say? Something more related to what we were talking about. Oh, my own book. I've been struggling a lot with the idea of villains, because the way I'm positioning the heroes in the story is they are the center of villainy. Essentially, we're following not necessarily bad people, but the people who are causing strife and pain. So it's been a little bit more difficult to have a central antagonist to the protagonist when that becomes so more. But that's been handled and flushed out. I have the story storyboarded, so he's now behind my monitor. So don't worry, it's going to happen in the future. But I have to get going before too long, everybody. So if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to ask me anything, book related or not. And I enjoy that. Let's see. I'm making a cult that worships Pips as the god of the new world. Well, the god of the new world the other day stepped in poop and tracked it all over my apartment. So you might want to reconsider your deity standards. He also just swatted the laser pointer off the desk. So yeah, I love Pips, but I'm definitely have mixed emotion towards him right now after I spent an hour cleaning poo. Zach Nat, I saw your long post and I just considered responding to it, but I've had a problem before, like me responding in text with jokes, people thinking I'm serious when I'm being sarcastic. So I saw it. It was very funny. I appreciate it, but I don't want to leave a response because people seem to have. No, it's not people. It's me. I have a very hard time coming across sarcastic over text. It's a skill I have not known. So when they're writing the Bible of Pips, what's the chapter of tracking poo over the apartment about? What's the metaphor there? I'm curious. Let's see. Wait, you saw the essay and still pronounced my last name wrong? Yeah, I know. I'm not going to say it right. Why would I say it right when it clearly bothers you? Do you like your villain to have a reason to be evil, or they can be insane like Joker? See, okay. Great note to end on, because I need to get this rant off. Okay. Obviously, it's okay for a villain to have a purpose or not. It's not a binary thing. It's not good or bad to have a purpose or not. It's whatever the story demands. You see this narrative again and again and again said online, and it's just not true. Villains do not necessarily need to have a why. That's not what makes a great villain. It drives me nuts to hear this said. It depends on the story. A xenomorph is a wonderful villain. It does not have a why for what it's doing outside of just animal instinct and to serve the story of Alien. Same thing for, let's think of another great example. The Thing. Not much of a motivation there. And I would, I don't know. There's so many of these video essays talking about Marvel or whatever online, and they're just always saying they have to have a great motivation. Well, the Joker didn't, and he's probably the best villain any movie's ever seen. The Joker in the Nolan movies, it's deliberately made that he has no known motivation. He's just chaos. And that's what the story needed, and it was great. So according to what someone said earlier, though, that's just a monster and not a villain. So maybe I'm in the wrong there, but I really think it's chaotic evil. It's just purposeless chaos can have a wonderful purpose. Entropy is terrifying, and that's what those monsters often represent. That's what those villains are pushing for, and they don't need a reason why. Don't get me wrong, Thanos is probably the best villain Marvel's ever made, and that's largely because of his why. But that's because Infinity War Endgame need a why to be compelling stories. That's just me. Let's see, we got a couple more here. I have a lot of confidence in your book because you know what you're talking about and stuff. So good luck, man. It's easy to say it and know it, but writing it is a whole other thing. I'm quickly here. I just want to see what people say in the chat. Who's a better villain, Darth Vader or Thanos? I just want to see who we get more of because I'm curious. To me, there's a clear answer, but I want to know what people think. Darth Vader, Thanos. I'm not going to give my opinion. Thanos, Vader. Oh man, Vader, Thanos, Vader. Oof. That's interesting. Much more split than I thought it would be. I'm not going to give my answer, but that's neat. That is neat. All right. I think it's more Vader. I think there's more Vader. Now, what's the bigger Terry Good guy? Oh my gosh. Pips. Of course, Pips starts coming in as well. You can't bait us like that. I can do whatever I want now. Vader. See, do you think Vader... See, I'm not going to give my answer. I think Vader is an amazing villain, and I think one of the greatest villains cinema's seen. But Vader does, again, get hurt the more we learned about him. The prequel movies should not have been about Vader. They should have been about Obi-Wan, and I think Vader was hurt by having his backstory explained. I don't think motivations and more understanding help every villain. Pips backwards is Pips. No, it's not. It's Spip. All right, guys, I think I need to end the live stream just about here. I definitely do. So I appreciate you all, and I cannot wait to talk to you again soon. Enjoy the video tomorrow. Patrons, look for another post coming soon about a character release, and it's going to be a character release with a twist, so I hope you enjoy that as well. I love you all. You will see my face again soon. Patrons are going to have a live chat as well, I think this weekend, and I look forward to just having y'all enjoy what I put out and putting things out for y'all. I made it weird. Have a good one, y'all. See ya.